Ever since I color coordinated my books, I get really irritated having to pull books off the bookshelf. So this video, I am so excited to be making because I'm so excited to be done with this. So I did the Pop Sugar reading challenge for 2020 with my mom, and I did the advanced track, and I'm pretty sure I did it wrong. So I'll just say that. So, and I didn't realize that until I started investigating the Goodreads page like earlier this week. Because I like looked at it at first, and now I think there's like one every month plus another list, when I just found a list of 10 different types of books. So this is probably a useless video because I can't follow directions properly and I just jump into things. Took a test at like a management training at work last year about like what I was, or like what like worker type you are, and I wish I like had the papers somewhere, but I'm pretty sure I threw them out when I moved. But basically I'm a bulldozer and I just like to get started on things, and I don't read directions. So anyway, so I found a list of 10 different types of books. So I'm going to go through what the type was, what the book I read. If you're interested, if you're an avid reader, I definitely think you have time to still do this challenge and get it done. It's what's like the end of September, is like 3 months left. But if not, do it for next year. I'll probably do it next year because I found it definitely widened my range, and I'll kind of get that as I go through it. Some of these books I've talked about already in previous videos, so I'll mention those ones. I'll try to link them down below if I remember. And this is already 3 minutes long, so let's get started. And I'm just drinking water today. 10 categories I guess I can read first, and I'm sorry my desk is messy now that I have a larger desk. There's just a lot of junk on it. So just going through the 10 types is a book written by an author in their 20s, a book with 20, like 20 or 20 spelled out in the title, a book with the main character with a vision impairment or enhancement, a book set in Japan, hosted the 2020 Olympics, now in 2021, but still 2020 Olympics, a book written by an author who has written more than 20 books, a book set in the 1920s, a book with more than 20 letters in the title, a book published in the 20th century, a book from a series with more than 20 books, and a book with the main character in their 20s. The book written by an author in their 20s, the book I selected for that one was Know My Name by Chanel Miller. I'm sure you guys all know what this book is about. It is about the woman who was sexually assaulted by Brooke Turner, and basically why she came out, her story. I found it, obviously, I don't know what I rated it, and I wish I would have looked up, and maybe editing Anna will put what I rated them on here. But it definitely wasn't, I know a lot of booktubers don't rate memoirs, and I totally get that. I just, for aesthetic reasons and compulsive reasons, I need to have like ratings on all of my Goodreads books. But they gave it like 3 stars. It wasn't the most triggering memoir, which is probably good for a lot of people. I found the Talking to Strangers by Malcolm Gladwell side of the story a little bit more jarring, I guess I should say, but it's definitely a book everybody should read, no matter if you like memoirs or not. It just like every person, every millennial, Gen Z, Gen Y, or I don't know what generations under millennials, should read that book and just kind of absorb the knowledge and the pain that can happen. So that was the first book. Obviously, it was very popular at the beginning of the year as well. So the second book, and I know I've talked about this book before, and this is the book with 20 or 20 in the title, and this was Catch-22 by Joseph Heller. You guys know I love this book. I do think everybody should read this book as well. Definitely, this was out of my comfort zone of a book I would never really pick up. And it was great. It was long, but it was worth every bit of length. And I definitely think it's important to read. But I had a whole discussion with my boyfriend on this, and if you force a book to be read, people are gonna hate it. Like, neither of us remember really any of the books we were forced to read in like high school. So I think he said he was supposed to read it in high school. Either way, if you are a reader, you probably have already read this book. I don't know. If you're new to reading and you want to have a book that kind of hurts, gets your heart a little bit with a message, but not overt message, read this book. Okay, so third, a book with a character with a vision impairment or enhancement. I did The Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I did not like this book. I gave it 2 stars. I know a lot of people love it, and I know some people don't like it. I'm one of the people who don't like it. My mom read it. She loved it. I think she said she gave it a 3 out of 5 stars, but she said she loved it. And I think one of my sisters is reading it right now, but I did not like it. I like remember parts of it, but I couldn't speak to it in an intelligent manner. I'll leave the live show of like Paperback Dreams, Read with Cindy, someone else who I can't remember off the top of my head right now. They did a live show on it. I think if you really want to just hear about the book, that's a great place to listen. And if you don't follow any of them, why are you watching me? Follow them instead. Okay. 4, I know I've talked about this book before. I read Hiroshima by Ann Hersey, and again, I said in the video where I read this at the same month as Catch 22. Not a book I would pick up. Expected something a little bit more for the hype of the book and the reviews of the book going into it. I didn't really cry. I found there was like one descriptive sentence that really got me in the book, but again, it wasn't meant to be a book. It was an article. So I read that book, but I honestly didn't know anything about it going into that. So the American history system is bad. Okay. We're gonna get off my soapbox and just... Okay. Next book. I know I've talked about this before in like my best books of 2020 or something that I've read so far in 2020. And I just have this is my half book because I have something else by the author. And this is, I'm not sure if I said this, a book by an author who's written more than 20 books. So I read an Anthony Horowitz book. This one is The Word is Murder, which I read this year. Did I read this year or last year? I read this last year. I read this at the end of last year. But I read Magpie Murders by Anthony Horowitz. Great book. Love Anthony Horowitz. My mother and I have pre-ordered his newest book, which I actually think is the next of Magpie Murders. I really like this series though. Who died? They're trying to find the last chapter of his book to kind of solve the situation, the murder, the disappearance. Why can't I find them? Whatever. But any Anthony Horowitz book is good. I never read the Alex Rider series as a kid. Probably won't read it now, but it's good. All right. Moving on. This was the category that was holding me up. And this is a book set in the 1920s. There's a lot of books. None of them sound appealing to me, so I went with a classic. And I just finished Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf, and it's a classic. I didn't know anything about it, so if you don't know anything about it, it's about a woman, Mrs. Dalloway. She's hosting a party, and ex-lovers come in, you hear about her past, someone dies, and the party goes on. Flowers, a lot of symbolism. It's pretty it's a pretty hefty book. Like, it's not hefty, it's like 200 pages, but it's like a pretty dense book of themes for like a 200-page book set in the 1920s. Like, there is like classism, social peer pressure, LGBTQ, just like a lot, mental illness, but it was good. I don't remember what I rated it, but it was not what I expected. But I also never have read Virginia Woolf before that I know of, so I feel like there's probably a lot more complex themes and symbolism, messages throughout the book. Like, I don't get why Toppy was written in the sky, but I'm not a literature student, and I never claimed to be. So, yeah. 7 is a book with more than 20 words in the title, and I read Climate of Hope: How Cities, Businesses, and Citizens Can Save the Planet. Technically, that's the full title, so it counts, but there's also multiple other books with more than 20 letters in this title. So this is by Michael Bloomberg and Carl Pope. I was gonna say I'm not gonna get political, but this is Anna, so. I love Michael Bloomberg. I've loved him for a while. Actually wrote one of my college admissions essays on Michael Bloomberg. When was I applying for colleges? Over 5 years ago. So yes, big fan of trying to save the planet and believing in global warming and that we can all make a difference. So that on businesses and government and big picture that we need, but it's not really going to tell you little ways that you can change. It will make you angry about the issue. It will make you want to be proactive. It will probably make you hate Donald Trump, but it won't give you actionable advice unless you are like working with a PAC or really into your local government, serious about climate change, and that's important. So I don't know, this is not gonna make any sense, but take action, Anna. All right, and the next one is, I also have the book for, and this one is a book published in the 20th century. So this book I got is Death and the Penguin by Andrei Kirkov. I did not like this book. As someone who has done more than the average person of research into Russian literature and Soviet literature, I thought I would like it or get it. I did not get it. I did not like it. But I read it, and it has a cute title, and there's a penguin involved, which is fine until you feel sad for the penguin. And there's like mobsters, if I remember this correctly. Yeah. This guy writes living obituaries. How sad is that? Yeah, now I'm remembering this book more. I read this towards the beginning of the year, like when I was still in an office, and yeah, he wrote living obituaries, and every time he wrote an obituary, the person died. And he's taking care of a penguin. So this book, it probably has a lot of deep, dark themes that I did not pick up because I don't have a literature mind. A book with a series of more than 20 books. I read Nancy Drew and the Lilac Inn. I've talked about this book before. It was a good throwback, but I won't be reading any more of Nancy Drew. Did just watch the whole series like 2 weeks ago. That could have been shorter. Really dragged out that series if you want me to talk about my thoughts on TV shows. But I love Nancy. She'll always have a place in my heart. But the book was, and I'll try to do something with my review there. Honestly, these are probably all in the same video. At least like 3 of them are in the same video. All right, and finally, Number 10, because this video couldn't have been more boring. This was My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Artessa Mossveg. I loved this book. I listened to an audiobook and I literally was thinking today about how I need to go buy it in hardback. This book has changed my life. And that may be dramatic, but I have been a huge napper and like big on sleep my entire life, and like just listening to this book like just hurt my heart, like how I can't let my days in my life waste away, and like how like dealing with depression and medicating yourself is not a positive way of life. And I love this book so much. Easily one of the best books I've found this year. Honestly, I did not know about this book or this character or this author when I found this book. I think it just came up on my Goodreads recommendations. And if you saw my books last month, like I've read another Artessa Mossveg or at least one other, and I did not like it, but this book, tear jerks. No, I didn't actually cry, but I loved this book. And I think it was really important to read before quarantine. So I read this in February, I have it marked down. And so like when those first few months of quarantine hit, I really needed like to have that in my mind. So I love that book. Overall thoughts. Definitely will be doing this again next year. It definitely got me reading different types of books. So reading books from authors that I have never read before or never would think to read before. Just given like I generally prior to this year really only read thrillers, and this was obviously a wide or thrillers or like nonfiction of like some self-help books, some books about climate change and the environment, but this definitely expanded my range of books that I want to read, that I have read, that's on my TBR. Even like right now I'm like in a really deep romance phase. Wait until September wrap up, but I really enjoyed this challenge. And maybe next year I will do it correctly. If I did it incorrectly this year, time will tell. But I highly recommend anyone to do this. And when my mom recommended to me, I was like, Pop Sugar Reading Challenge, like it's a gossip site or like a fashion site. Obviously that's where she tells me Kardashian news from. So I was definitely surprised when I saw the range of books that they wanted you to read. It was really helpful. If on their Goodreads group they had their list of like Listopia lists of books for each of these sections, so like I didn't have to go hunt and search for things. Obviously I had some books already on my TBR or that I had purchased, like I already had Climate of Hope purchased, I already had Death in a Penguin purchased, but it was a great challenge and I could not recommend it more. Maybe choose better books than I did. I mean, honestly, like you could choose like a 10-page book, but like my general dislike for many of these books, I wouldn't say dislike, general contentment, content with the books. I'm excited to tick this challenge off. I can get rid of transferring that page in my bullet journal and move on with my life. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like it if you did, subscribe if you want to see more. Yeah, I'm gonna be one of those people to say those things now, and enjoy your days.